Thanks for joining East Main Sports Podcast tonight. Tonight we're going to preview the 2023-24 high school basketball season. I got Steve Carmichael from WHOU joining me and Bob Beatham. We're going to talk to many coaches around the area tonight. Talk about how their preseason is going and what the expectations are for the season. But first, if you can find this podcast right where you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. You can get all our live games, get notified when we go on live. You can hear this on Spotify or anywhere you get your podcast. So our schedule coming up, we open on Friday, December 8th, Penquist at Dexter Boys Basketball. On December 11th, we have Boys Basketball, Ellsworth at Foxcroft Academy. December 13th, Ellsworth at Foxcroft Girls. December 15th, we have a doubleheader. That's Central at PCHS, girls boys doubleheader. And on December 16th, we'll be at Foxcroft for a Caribou Foxcroft doubleheader. So that's our schedule coming up. And Steve, if you want to kind of tell us what you got going on WHOU.
Yeah, the first weekend, December 9th, it's the Old Town Presque Isle doubleheader. And then the following week on the 12th and the 13th, Holton and Caribou, girls on the 12th, boys on the 13th. And then a couple good games after that on the 14th and 15th, Fort Kent, Fort Fairfield girls, and Easton and Fort Fairfield boys. So that's just the start of 54 games on my schedule. So it'll be a busy winter, that's for sure.
There you go. Thank you, Steve. And let me get going. We're going to start with, we're going to talk to the guests as we go here. Start with Class B girls, and then we will go from there. Joining us for Class B girls, first we'll go to Marissa Kelly, the John Baps girls coach. So we'll go around. We'll ask Steve and Bob and I will ask some questions. But first, Marissa, how's the preseason going?
It's going pretty well. I think Ellsworth kind of gave us all a little bit of confidence that we can bring the gold ball back to the northern side, and it's making all of us a little bit hungrier to come out on top, and there's a little bit more belief in there. And I know on our side, the energy that we've had as a program coming back is unlike any season that I've had. So personally, we're really excited and looking forward to getting on the hardwood Friday.
Excellent. Bob?
Yeah, absolutely. And, Coach Kelly, I think obviously we've known each other for the last 3 years and do a tremendous job with the program. What are some of the keys this year? Maybe, again, program won 8 games last year, and 6 of the wins are no longer on the schedule this year. So what are maybe some of the keys to look for as far as improvement this year? Maybe get over the hump to possibly get to the cross center for the tournament this year.
I think a big part of it is effort and fundamentals. I mean, I think as you look around, every team has talent, but it's who's going to go that extra mile, who's going to dive on the floor, who's going to pick their teammates up when they get into that little slump. And I think that's something that we have this year that's unlike other years is we have a group that they put in all the effort. And I think that that's something that we can do to kind of squeak on top. But it's going to be a very, very competitive Class B North. And it'll be interesting to see how some things slide out.
Absolutely. Steve?
Yeah, Coach Kelly, looking at the Class B ranks on the north side, I think a lot of people into the season are rightfully so expecting Ellsworth to pretty much dominate. A lot of people aren't really talking about John Babs, but I think after you have Old Town and Ellsworth and Caribou with the best player, I think, in the conference with Madeline Depre, after them, I feel like it's pretty wide open, and not many people have brought up the Crusaders. And I just want to ask is what do you think that your team has that, well, maybe underlooked right now?
I think we have a team, and yeah. I think you look at Ellsworth, you look at Old Town, Caribou, like you just said, they have key players. And don't get me wrong, they're incredible. They're incredibly well coached. But then you look at these teams that are fighting for that chance. Do you have the teamwork? Do you have the effort? Do you have the attitude? I know personally we are working on achieving great, which means being gracious, having gratitude, getting in all the reps, having effort, positive attitude, and teamwork. And I think that all teams. I mean, really, if you can focus on those things, that's going to be what puts you to the top. And us personally, we're dedicated on that. And we just got notified that we have a snow day tomorrow. And I've had girls say, Coach, can we get into the gym and shoot? What's going on? So they're hungry, and I'm sure other teams are. But like I said, the energy that we walked in on in the first practice is far beyond something we've had in the past. And I think they have a little bit of fire. They look around and they say, hey, we haven't been on the map. We're going to get there. So look out.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight, Coach. Anything else, Steve or Bob?
It's a good answer
for me. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Well, we're going to move on to Levi Ladd, another coach Class B girls ranks. And first, Levi, let's talk about numbers first. What are your numbers for your team right now? I hear they're kind of down, and are you able to have a JV squad this year?
Yeah, we're down quite a bit. I think everybody is. We had 17 go out. We've since had one decide to, a couple of them decide to pursue kind of specialization in their favorite sports, whether it be field hockey or softball. So we're down to 15 in the program. We do have enough to have a JV program. We're just kind of getting the schedule on that ironed out on what schools have JV programs and are worth playing for us. So we're doing joint practices and kind of just a longer block at this point in time. But everybody's, throwing 16 people in the gym is a challenge at times, but everybody's working on the same things and learning the same exact system, which is kind of the first time we've done that in my 3 years here. We keep kind of referring to it as the Band-Aid year, where we're kind of, ready to go where we wanted to go and have been building to for a few years. So we're excited for the season, and the energy's been great. Attitudes and cohesion with the team is probably better than we've had in a few years, which anyone that coaches girls know that chemistry is vital with being able to play together. So we're excited. Numbers are down a little bit, but we're really hoping that we're able to have a successful season, which will drive numbers up. The middle school they have pretty balanced. I think they have 3 8th graders on the A team, 4 7th graders. There's 4 on the B team, 7th grade squad. So we've got some players coming up too, where our numbers would like to peak back up, I hope. But it's the way it is everywhere right now. I don't think we're ever going to see 30 people trying out again in small schools like ours.
Steve?
Yeah, take a look at the Class B ranks. You were 7th last year with a record of 9-9. I'm pretty sure you beat Herman in the prelim. Is that correct? If I'm wrong. All right, then you get to the quarterfinals. Looking at your team this year, how do you think you're shaping up?
Tough to say. We lost a lot of ball handling. We had 5 seniors graduate. 4 of those girls played pretty significant minutes. Well, I'd say 3 played significant minutes, but 1 was a pretty good contributor to us on the defensive side. But losing Rains was, she's a pretty ball heavy, kind of a dominant guard, and Abby Knapp's a great rebounder, and Destiny Weymouth was kind of our go-getter out there, and she had kind of a turbulent season. She had mono at the beginning of the year and came back for 2 games and rolled an ankle and missed another 2. It was just kind of a unfortunate season for her. So we're really looking for new leadership. We've got very young ball handlers. Coach Grant could attest to the kind of the ups and downs of that. We're going to have a sophomore point guard this year, and that can be a little bit rough. And then hopefully they learn quickly. They getting thrown to the fire. We played Gardner and Camden Hills on Saturday, and both of those were pretty good challenges for us. We were missing a couple of our senior guards that were taking SATs. So, but I don't know. We could go. We could be very competitive, or we could struggle at times. It really depends on the leadership that we have come up from those upperclassmen, Steve, and how they handle it, and if we can keep everybody kind of gelled, doing some new things every day that need to be high energy. And if we're low energy, we're not very good.
Bob?
Absolutely. I know last couple of years, you played a real kind of frenetic style of play and really tried to create a lot of havoc, defensively, pressuring all over the floor. With the team that you have this year, do you plan on going kind of the same route or maybe a different style? And then also, if you can speak a little bit about, some of the other teams that could challenge and be North this year, other than the, obvious contenders, Ellsworth and Old Town?
Yeah, I mean, we like to be disruptive. That's just the philosophy I have. I played for Coach Hamlin, and he really instilled a matter of physicality and a mental edge that I'm trying to instill on my kids. I'm certainly not. I certainly don't coach the same philosophy he has. I like to change things up like he did, but we do like to get out and run. But we've kind of had an issue with turnover with coaching and seniors and whatnot. So this is the first year I really felt like we had a good foundation under us to really change up defense as much as we would like to. I don't know as we'll play as much as up and down as we have, because we've got a couple of more aggressive front court players that don't get up and down as much. So we're going to do some different things and pressure when we can, but we're just looking forward to getting out there. We've got a pretty rugged road schedule this year, as you always do. But I don't think in the Big East, in Class B North, it's just not really an easy game when you play. We're going to open at WA, which is a 3-hour bus ride on Saturday, and they lost a lot of leadership, but they're always a very, very physical team that isn't afraid to get up and down. And then we come home and host Ellsworth right out of the gates. Obviously, everybody knows about them. Holton was young last year, so they obviously were kind of on a learning curve coming up, but they're going to have a lot more experience coming back. Presque Isle lost, what was it?
Chandra.
John,
Yeah.
thank you, but they've got a lot of girls coming back too. And I honestly have no idea what Herman has. They've got a new coach too, so a new system to learn. Obviously, Brent Barker down to MDI always has his girls ready to play. They look pretty tough down this weekend. So I don't know. There's never an easy game when we play it, honestly. And I think our only crossover this year is Dexter, and that's never a fun crossover for us either.
Thank you. Thank you, Coach Kelly and Coach Ladd. Going to move on to Class B boys right now, and we got our only player with us tonight is Chance Mercier here. Thank you for joining us, Chance, and appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Wanted to start off. I'll ask you a question. You guys, went 18-0 last year. Lost in the tourney, and Orono ended up winning it. Is there extra motivation kind of coming into this season?
Oh yeah, because if you think back to my sophomore year, we lost in the state championship to Yarmouth, and then Orono regional final, and it's just kind of like we can't get over that hump, so we're trying to get that motivation. Like we're hungry for it. I mean, guys are working hard. We should get over that last ledge.
Bob?
Yeah, absolutely, Chance. And again, best of luck this season. Obviously, I mean, you guys are going to be one of the favorites in a really loaded Class B this year. Certainly people know about you, but maybe talk about some of the other players that we should watch out for Ellsworth this year. Maybe some kids that kind of were under the radar last year that maybe, had some real good summers, and kids that maybe we should look out for this fall and winter.
So personally, not to be like biased or anything, but like I think everyone should look out for our whole team. We got some great guys coming up. Braden King, Hollis, our senior point guard Miles, and our senior small forward Caleb Connors. Then Dawson, brother of Hunter and Jackson. He's looking good. I mean, Josiah James Chin, our point guard last year, backup. He's looking really good. I mean, the whole squad's looking good.
Great.
Steve?
Hey, Chance, Steve here. Yeah, good luck this season. Look forward to seeing you on the 23rd up here in Presque Isle. For you, I think I know you put in a lot of time, the work ethic. I mean, you don't ever stop playing basketball. Basically, I know you play for AAU, you're traveling, you're on the road. Talk about just over the course of the years as you head into your senior year, how much work you've put in and how it's paid off, and how much are you looking forward to your senior year?
Obviously very excited, but also very sad at the same time. It's coming to an end, unfortunately, but I put in a lot of work over the time. I think I started taking basketball seriously my seventh grade year. So just getting better every day, training, working on ball handling, getting 1,000 shots up a week. And then the weight room was probably the biggest impact for me. Be able to finish because I stopped growing my eighth grade year, but I was bigger and stronger than everyone. So I needed to get stronger to compete in high school.
Chance, I guess my last thing is, what are your plans after high school?
So I've been thinking a lot about my plans after, but like right now I'm very undecided. Like, do I want to play college basketball? Do I want to go to technical school? So they're still up in the air right now.
Excellent. Well, look forward to seeing you. I'll see you on December 13th at Foxcroft. So
Sounds good.
looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us. Steve or Bob, anything else?
I'm good. Good luck,
Talk about
Chance.
maybe some. Oh, go ahead, Steve.
So, well, I was going to ask you too, just looking at the Class B North ranks. Yeah, we talk about Orono and Ellsworth, but past them, I think there are still a lot of competitive teams. Class B, especially in the Big East, is just absolutely, I think, loaded. You're not going to have an easy game. You have to bring your A game every night, but just talk about some of those other teams that are, potentially be right around you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you got Orono, they won state last year, but you also got to watch out for like Old Town, Caribou, Presque Isle. I think Presque Isle is gonna be solid. Then you got I think Class B, like WA is gonna be really good. It's the Class B is so open this year, like you guys said. Anyone can knock off anyone. Heel points are gonna come into play big time if someone upsets. So it's so open this year.
Bob, do you have something?
I just wanted to kind of comment along what Steve said too. Again, wide open Class B this year, but I think another team to watch out for this year. They're coming from B South to B North. Not going to see them in the regular season, but Maranacook with Keegan McClure is coming into the North this year. So they'll be a team that's probably going to be at the Cross Center for the tournament, and it certainly makes some noise there as well. And Bucksport's got everybody back from last year, and I think they've got a new coach in Sedge Saunders, had success at Freiburg, and I think Bucksport's is certainly a team that could get to the Cross Center as well. So,
well, thank you, Chance. We're going to move on to Coach Corrigan of Caribou. Kyle, thank you for joining us tonight. And first, I just want to talk about, obviously everybody's talking about Orono and Ellsworth, deservedly so. But what about your team? You definitely did well last year too. And what do you think about your team and how preseason has gone so far?
Yeah, we've had a pretty good preseason. We're a little down in numbers too, but we got like 13, 14, eighth graders coming in next year. So we've got a big class coming in. We've got 2 seniors, but we're really junior, sophomore heavy this year. So we're a little bit on the young side. But a lot of these kids have shown up. They played travel ball together. They did an AAU schedule, but as like a Caribou unit. So they've been playing together since February. Since March, the season ended. They've been doing the AAU thing, and I'm really excited to get going with them. Being so far north, we're limited on our preseason stuff. So we had 2 games. Coach Hutchins and Skank was supposed to come up yesterday, but the weather played a little part in that, so we didn't get to meet up and hold a practice together. But I'm excited. Really kind of just looking forward to the season happening now. You can only practice so much before you want to see what you have. So I'm ready for games to begin.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I look forward to seeing you on December 16th, and I'll pass it over to Steve now.
Yeah, Coach, I think one of your biggest strengths, well, it was last year, but especially going into this year is your depth. I know we've talked a lot about that, but you could probably go 10, 11 deep. I mean, you just have a lot of guys that can, do different things. One guy Tristan Robbins can score 25 on one night. Next night it's Cayman Sargent or, Landon Belanger's a name that I'm really looking forward to watching him play this year. You just got a lot of guys, and it's a luxury for you.
Yeah, this honestly could be the deepest we've been. If I'm being totally honest, as far as like where there's no drop off, we'll probably go 9 or 10 deep every game. It's not going to be equal minutes, obviously, but we'll end up getting 9, maybe 10 guys in. And the biggest thing is those guys buying into the roles, which we've had individual discussions and expectations. And so far, so good. Guys are liking the roles that we've given them. Practices have been going really well. And they understand too that, roles can change throughout the season. So we just need them to kind of do what we need them to do throughout the year. And if somebody goes down, somebody's got to step up. They're ready to go. So no, you're spot on though. We've got some pretty good depth this year.
Well,
yeah, one thing I'm really excited about in B North this year is that not only there are a lot of really good competitive teams, but the style of play, you're not going to see a lot of 42-40 type of games in B North this year. A lot of teams play a real aesthetic, pleasing style of basketball. So maybe talk a little bit about the style of play that you bring with the Caribou Vikings this year.
Yeah, no, we're going to try to do what we've always done. And that's get up and down the floor. I think it's a way the kids like to play. They really enjoy that. More kids get to play that way. If you play faster pace, you get a little bit tired, you can get some subs in. Plus, it just brings energy to the game. And we've got a pretty guard heavy group. They've been running the floor for the last 6-7 years together. I've been able to watch them, particularly like the sophomore junior class. My nephew's a sophomore, so I've been able to watch the sophomores and juniors kind of grow up together, and they've always kind of played that fast pace, up tempo offense and defense. So we're going to look to continue to do that. Like I said, it's a fun way to play, and I think it fits our style too.
Anything else, Bob or Steve?
Well, I'm assuming we're going to see a real fast-paced game at the Cross Center Friday night when you come to take on the John Babs Crusaders.
Yeah, probably.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, Coach, and good luck this season, and see you on the 16th.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Class C girls right now, where we have two coaches with us, Coach Grant of Dexter and Coach Bell of PCHS. We're going to start with Coach Bell. And what I want to talk about, Coach, is, you were kind of, unfortunately, Penquist just dropped out, and you guys were not that far away, really, from that. And then you got a couple kids, and you're able to have a season. Maybe just talk about maybe the lack of participation, and if you have a reason why that might be.
Yeah, we a couple weeks ago when we were having open gym, we had 6 girls consistently, and that was it. And luckily, I was able to recruit a couple who have never played before. Great girls, but definitely have not seen the participation that I was looking for at all. I have some juniors that decided not to play this year. They want to focus on skiing. There's some incoming freshmen who I was counting on having, but they decided to do other things, like indoor track was added this year. So there's a couple girls that are doing that. There's a couple freshmen that aren't playing. So I have 9 total, but 6 of them are kind of really our true varsity players, for lack of better terms, that have been consistent all the way up through. And luckily I got some other ones within literally the last like 2 days before regular season started. So, or preseason, I mean. But yeah, it was scary for a little bit. My AD and I were going back and forth for a couple of days, like, what do we do? But I don't know. I don't know what's happening. It's so different than when I played in school. Like, I remember we would have like 35, 40 girls try out every year consistently. And it's just not there anymore.
Yeah, very unfortunate. But about your team, you got kind of, you got a young team, not a large team, but
very young,
young team. But
yeah.
talk about the freshman and one of your sophomores. Ava Gillette had a very good season last year as a freshman, and you said you got a freshman coming on, Starboard.
Yeah, Reese. Reese is going to be a huge asset for us this year. She is a little bit taller than me, so 5'7", 5'8", probably. And she's never played post before, surprisingly, but she went through a growth spurt last summer, and we've been trying to get her down there, and she's a huge help to Ava. They work very, very well together. Seeing some good things this preseason. She's definitely getting used to the physicality of high school basketball compared to middle school, but she'll be a big help. I got a really good core sophomore group, but we're just still so young. So lots of inexperience, but I think it'll be a really good building year for us.
Yeah, just obviously your schedule isn't easy. You got Coach Grant's Dexter team, you got Central, you got Penobscot Valley, all tough opponents.
Yeah.
What's kind of the mindset going into those games? Because obviously you're going into those games as underdogs, and just I know the end of the year you had a good record, and then you played all those teams at the end. What's your team mindset when you're going in against those tough opponents?
Just to play with your heart and show them what you got. Like, we have nothing to lose in those games. Play, like, remember the little things is always what I tell them. The little things will all come together and equal the big things. But just play with your heart. Sometimes I think people forget that and don't necessarily use it. They kind of go in looking at it as, oh, well, we're going to lose, like, before you even step on the floor. And I definitely don't ever want my girls going into any game thinking that, regardless of how good the team is we're playing. So that's what I try to tell them to do. Play with your heart and focus on the little things, and the big things will come.
Yep. Bob, you got anything for Coach Bell?
Yeah, just kind of looking about as far as participation numbers. just a thought that I had, maybe, see if you agree, disagree, but it seems like the way we develop players now from the earlier ages is much different now than it used to be back, 25, 30 years, well, even 20 years ago. There was all the kids played through the rec program and played locally. Now with all the advent of travel teams and how much, I wonder if socioeconomic issues play into lack of participation, maybe from a younger age, people that don't have the means maybe to travel downstate, and some of those things might have to do with participation numbers, particularly in some of the rural areas.
Yeah, I definitely think that that plays a factor. Possibly for us, we're a super small community anyway. I've noticed that a lot of girls are going to like a one sport track. Like they pick one sport that they really like and they kind of go for it instead of playing three sports. Like when I was in school, everyone, you just play the seasons through. And so now I think there's kind of been a shift. Like everyone wants to get really good at one sport instead of being pretty good at, like, say two or three sports. So I'm noticing that for sure. I don't know. It's so bizarre, and it's everywhere though. It's not just in like the smaller towns. I was talking to someone the other day that was saying Brewer had really small numbers, and I don't know if that's true, but that's what I had heard. And I was like, wow, they're a really big school, and they've only got a handful of girls that are coming out. So I don't know. It's just very different than what it used to be.
Sure.
Steve, you got anything?
No, I think she's right. I mean, numbers are a concern everywhere, and it's not just the small schools; it's the big ones too. As I mentioned to Coach Kelly before we went on, talking to Cameron Prescal. I mean, Prescal is one of the premier programs in Class B on the girls' side. I mean, they've won 3 state titles in the past 15 years or so, and they were below 20. It's a problem everywhere. And Caribou was low, Old Town was low, and Old Town's been good for the past 5-10 years. I mean, it doesn't matter right now where you are. It's just it's a problem. It's a trend that's incredibly troubling, and hopefully at some point we can come together and find a solution. But it's really hard to pinpoint right now.
100%. I was talking to some of my rec coaches over the weekend, and they were saying that their numbers are low, like fourth and fifth grade are really low. And I'm like, yikes, that's really concerning because we're already low now. And then, what's it going to be in 5 or 10 years?
Right.
I was at the 3, 4, and 5 rec games today, and we only had, I think, 9 on that one team.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Anyway, thank you, Coach Bell, for joining us. Appreciate that. We're going to go over to Coach Jody Grant of Dexter right now. And Coach, I'm going to start with, you got a solid, strong group returning from a team that won the regional championship last year. You losing two pieces, very key pieces to your team. How are you going to replace them?
Good question. Seniors are tough to replace. They go through, those are kids that have been in the program for 4 years, been through a lot of battles, a lot of practices, a lot of repetitions. And so hopefully infusing 3 or 4 sophomores and a transfer kid from Buckfield. And, maybe as time goes on that they can eventually, figure some things out and be part of the nucleus of 6, 7, 8, 9, however many end up, getting into rotations, as the season goes on.
You got a strong inside game with Peach and Dean, and then a strong outside game with Corson and Gudrow. Kind of in past years, you've had, Peyton shoot from the outside, or you had Megan from the inside. How important is that to have both of those pieces right now?
Oh, I think it's tremendously important. The more balanced you can be offensively, the better. The Peach father always said that we had Peyton a year later than we should have, so those two could have played together in high school. So he's always blamed me for that. But no, balance is certainly key. We've got to get multiple contributions from different players, just so people can't, decide to take 1 or 2 options away, and then you struggle off. We already struggle offensively sometimes as it is.
Now,
I was not thinking that we would fit in with Class B boys basketball that well.
Well, you don't have to.
Bob said that was aesthetically pleasing style.
Right.
But I watched Bob coach for a long. I watched Bob coach for a long time with Coach Simbalek. I don't, would he refer to that as, and first, Bob, I got to ask about your Christmas. How many days after Thanksgiving, Bob, did that Christmas tree go up?
Actually, it went up before Thanksgiving, and you know what? It's all about the wins, right?
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah, I was going to say, Coach Grant, you've established what I would say is just a remarkably consistent program. I mean, the results really speak for themselves. What do you credit the most for the consistency that you've had in Dexter?
That's a good question. I get asked that quite a bit. I think it has to start with the community itself. It's been a sports community for a long, long time. I think we have kids that are willing to work hard. They allow themselves to be coached. And I've been very fortunate. We've had, a progression of groups come through. There's been 4, 5, 6, 7 kids in a couple of year cluster. And we've had about 5 or 6 of those now going on almost 20 years. And so I don't know. I don't think you can pinpoint and say it's been one thing. I think it's been a culture that has started from the beginning, and it sort of has lent itself. So the kids that put the uniforms on now have similar expectations to what's gone on in the past. And so a lot of our former players certainly get, all the credit for that.
Bob?
Yeah, maybe talk a little bit about obviously, your team, Penobscot Valley, going to be very strong this year. Mattanock. Maybe talk a little bit about how you match up with some of the teams and some of the obstacles you might face during the course of the season.
Yeah, I think there's several teams that are capable of winning it. I say that almost every single year that I've done this. Penobscot Valley has a good core back. Mattanock has almost everybody back. Hodgson's got if she's not the best individual player, she's got to be awfully close. And Anna Oliver, when the Allen girl is back to as healthy as she's going to be, they're going to be very, very difficult to beat. And so I think all those teams pose a lot of different types of challenges for us based on either size, guard play, their style of play, especially how they're going to defend, as it relates to us. And so it certainly will be a tremendous challenge, like I think it is every year.
Steve, Bob?
That's answered my question well, so.
Answered them all well, Jody. Thank you.
Absolutely.
No problem. Thanks, Mark.
Yes, thanks for coming.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks both for coming. We're going to go on to Class C boys, where we actually don't have a coach, so we're not going to. We'll actually talk about all these classes at the end too. So we'll kind of go on to Class D girls, where Cliff Urquhart wasn't able to join us, but I did ask him a few questions. He said they played a tough preseason. They played Ellsworth, Class B state champs, Camden, Lawrence, the Class A state champs, and they've competed. They've also played Central and Old Town and have competed well. So he's happy with the way preseason has gone. Asked him if there's any added pressure with the continued success of the program. He said yes and no. Expectations are always so high with the program, but they created it, so he's definitely not complaining about that. Pressure is a privilege. He'd rather be here than some places where nobody cares. So he appreciates what he has there in Southern Aroostook. Thoughts on Class D this year and his overall schedule. He said people are underestimating the Wisdom girls. They're going to have one of the best shooters, regardless of class, on the floor anytime they take the floor, in Lily Roy. So he definitely respects what they have. They have some good pieces around her. They'll be very good this season. Central Aroostook will be tough to beat. He said they're a Class C tournament team, and they moved to Class D. So he said they'll be tough, and he said they play Wisdom, Central Aroostook, Fort Kent, Hodgson, and also PVC teams, Calais and Stearns. Actually, something while Coach Grant's right here too, can we talk about the rule changes? What do you think about the rule changes of the the 101 and resetting the fouls? And I can ask all the coaches that are still here actually that. What do you think about that, Jody?
Yeah, I think the foul situation, just going 5 per quarter will make the game maybe have a little bit more flow to it, like we've seen at the, women's collegiate level. And so I think that we actually played in our summer league last summer and played under those rules over in Madison. And even going back, summer basketball can be pretty clunky at times. But I thought that actually helped clean some of that stuff up. And so what I've seen so far from preseason games on the boys' side, I've watched 3 or 4 games. My brother's fortunate enough to be coaching the Nokomis boys this year for the first time, so I've watched them a few times. And then also, varying levels of girls throughout the state. And so I think that's going to help that. And the inbound situation, moving the ball, I don't think that's going to change a whole lot once people understand, where the ball is going to, be put in bounds in certain places. If you're going to advance it to call a timeout and you want it on the side, or you want it, on the end line, you're going to have to understand exactly where those division lines are going to be. And so I don't think there's a ton there. But I certainly think the foul situation will maybe have a little bit more flow to the game on both sides, boys and girls.
Another thing is a rule that's not in place now. They've been talking about it for a few years and maybe coming down the road. What would you think if there was a shot clock?
Personally, in Dexter, Maine, we probably have a shot clock violation every time we touched it. But no, I think if you're going to do that, then you have to start at the younger levels, so that kids learn how to play the game. It would be better for the game. There's no question about it. There are many states that have gone to the shot clock, but younger kids are going to have to learn to play at a different pace than, if you don't let kids play that way when they're younger, and then you expect them to get to the, either the middle school or the high school level, then that would be a culture shock for them. And so I think it needs to be instituted. If you're going to do it at the statewide level, then it needs to trickle down to the lower level, so kids are learning to play at a faster pace.
Excellent. Thank you. Coach Bell, what do you think about the new resetting the fouls rules and those new rules?
Yeah, we did the tip-off tourney in Lee this weekend, and so that was kind of our first time seeing that. It was different for sure. Like, end of the game strategy is a little bit different. With having a smaller team, though, it definitely affected us. Like, I can't have my girls getting into foul trouble, and some of them are pretty handsy. So that's a learning curve for some of my younger ones. But I know for our boys, they went into double overtime. Brian Gauze coaching them, and the new foul rule definitely got them in a little bit of trouble at the very end of the game, because they only went in to the last 1 minute with like 2 fouls. And so they had to foul a bunch to get to that point where they put, I think they were playing Lee on the foul line to stop the clock. So that definitely, it changed a little bit for strategy, but I think it'll be a learning curve for all of us. It does speed up the game, though. It definitely speeds up the game. Yeah.
Coach Ladd, what do you think about it?
You're asking what I think about it in terms of my team, or what I think about it as a person?
Both.
I personally, strategically prefer the one-on-one approach, and I like that aspect of the game. That's how it's been, for a long time. But I've been coaching my kids not to foul for 2 years, yet they still cannot keep their arms and hands inside the vehicle. I think we probably average as many fouls as we do points. This weekend, we only got in the bonus, I want to say once in 8 quarters, which for us is very good. So I do think that rule change helps us a little bit, internally, but that doesn't mean I want to, play to it or play that way. There's certainly ways to keep your hands off and things like that. So anyway, I kind of agree with Coach Bell in that, it's probably good for the game and have a consistent set of rules and expectations from the college level on down. I kind of echo, I'm the opposite of Coach Grant's sentiments on the shot clock. If my kids had a shot clock violation, I would probably have a heart attack and peel over and, be dead on the sidelines, because we can't hold the ball for longer than 10 seconds without a turnover. So But I think all those things are good for the game and good for Maine high school basketball personally. I do think it gives you less time, helps you be a little bit more efficient with your practice time. You have less time spent on stunting and some of those other game situations because everything's a two-shot situation now, so we all have very limited gym time, in my opinion. I don't know if everybody else feels that way, but that's how I feel. So it certainly cuts down on some of the extra things you have to work on in practice. It's my opinion. But
Coach Corrigan, same thing to you?
Yeah, I don't mind it. It's going to bite us a little bit this year at times, but I don't mind it. We're more than willing to adapt to whatever new rules come into play, and I'm all for trying to better the game. So if that's what it's going to take, I'm good with it. But yeah, I think it's going to bite us a little bit once in a while because we do get a little handsy at times. But we had 2 games this weekend. I think we hit the double bonus once, or the bonus, I guess now, one time as well. So, but I'm sure there's going to be moments where I'm hating the rule too.
And what about the shot clock down the road, maybe?
I would love a shot clock, but we also like to play a more up tempo, faster pace. I think it would be good for, as a coach, for instance, as myself, I would like to have certain scenarios and situations ready to go for end of shot clock. If we're trying to run it down in the fourth quarter because we've got a lead, we'd have certain sets we could go to. I just think it would be really fun to kind of coach with a shot clock. And I think the kids would enjoy it too. At least I know mine would. I don't know, I only know my program. So, but I definitely know my kids would probably like a shot clock. It would be fun for them.
Definitely. We're going to skip over to Class D boys now, where we have actually 2 coaches with us today. We're going to start with Coach Hutchins of Skank. Thank you for joining us, Aaron.
Mark.
Yeah. Let's just start with obviously Southern Heuristic's the favorite in Class D, but talk about your program and maybe how you think you can match up with the top teams in Class D.
Sure. We have a lot of returners from last year's team, with an addition of Owen Wyman from Herman. I had the honor to coach him in soccer this fall. A lot of my basketball players played soccer, and that kind of helped our team chemistry, getting him involved early. And you're already seeing everything gel very well for the first couple weeks of preseason. They all grew. I mean, all my guys went from being like 5'8", 5'9" last year to 6'2", 6'3". That definitely helps in Class D. We're very deep. We're finally over the hurdle where this core group are all juniors and seniors. They've developed into their bodies, and we're very long and athletic. We've improved both like physically and shooting, maturity, strength, you name it. We've had a really good off season. They put the time and the commitment in, and we've only played 2 preseason games right now at PVHS over the Turkey Shootout. Look very good. We're up tempo, running gun. We're going to pressure you, trap you, get to the rim. We shot very well. So I'm excited. We go to Central Tuesday, and that's going to finish up our preseason before we open up against Howland the following Tuesday.
Steve?
Yeah, well, I'm just taking a look at your schedule from last year. You made Machias twice, you had Woodland twice, Penobscot Valley twice, Bangor Christian, who was a top 5 seed in Class D. That's a hard schedule.
Yeah.
You guys really challenge yourself through the regular season, and just how does that benefit you? I say when you get to the tournament.
I mean, it throws records out the window once you get to the tournament. I think we finished as a 3 seed last year, but our record was like
10-8.
9-9. Yeah, 10-8. Definitely prepares us. That's what we've always done. Mostly like a Class C loaded schedule, and again, that just prepares us for the tourney time. And the kids understand that. They're all about making each other better, making our program stronger, and this could be a year where we should hopefully get over that semifinal hurdle. We've been there the last 2 years, and we've come up a little short, and they're hungry, and it shows carrying over into practices this year. It's a totally different team, maturity wise, energy, I mean, you name it. It's gone really well so far.
Bob?
Yeah, who do you see as some of the contenders this year in Class D? Obviously, Machias moved up to Class C this year, so maybe some of the tough opponents in Class D this year.
Sure. Just kind of looking from last year. Obviously, Southern Rustic's going to be there. Coach Russell has a great program going. The return of Dylan Burpee, and he's the best player in Class D. That definitely helps. Bangor Christian's going to be right there with Coach Colson. The Reed kid and Strabel, they scare me. We played them twice last year, and I think both of them are like a 1 or 2 point when we split last year. You have additions of Central Rustic coming down, Stearns, Lee. I mean, Coach Harris is going to have something brewing, and trying to think outside. Jonesport's there every year. Katahdin boys are returning a lot. It's pretty wide open.
Yep.
I mean, you have SA at the top, and the rest of us are hoping to just contend with them and have a spot in the finals against them.
Bob or Steve, anything else for Aaron?
Good.
Perfect. Thank you. We're going to take it over to Coach Cummins. A familiar name, a familiar face, not a familiar place though. You're at Washburn now. You coached at Presque Isle, done many things. Just talk about the transition, and you're now trying to help build the program, huh?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me, Mark. And we're really looking forward to this season. The kids have come in hungry. I've got 14 kids that have come out to the program. So I've got 6 8th graders too that'll move up a little bit. So we are going to have a JV team as well. So we got 20 kids, 8th grade through seniors, and with that, we've only got one senior and a couple of juniors. So we got a big sophomore class and a pretty good freshman class. So we'll probably start 1 freshman and 4 sophomores is the way we're looking at going right now. So we're going to be a work in progress, but it's a fun team to coach. And I get over to Washburn a little after 3 for a 4 o'clock practice, and the sneakers are laced up and they're ready to go. So it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, Steve? Coach. I want to talk about Washburn but quite a bit, because Washburn has always been a very basketball hungry community. I mean, you talk from the early 2000s when they had, Jason Thompson and Adam Thompson and Zach Bird, and then they went to Mitch Worcester and then Cameron Bragg and Noah Cairn and Jared Olson. I mean, they've just, and obviously what the girls have done. I mean, we don't talk about them. I mean, 5 gold balls in a row. Washburn has just always been a basketball community. What has your been experience so far in your short amount of time? You said the kids are hungry, but just the community as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, the community's been very, very supportive. We've got people coming back into the gym that haven't been back for a while because when you're not winning, it's tough to really get some of the old timers there. The old timers, they're used to watching games, with the Worcesters and like a lot of the names that you said in Washburn. But it is a basketball community, and I mean, when you go into town, the first thing you see is home of welcome to Washburn, 12 state championship team. So. It's going to be a while. It's going to take a while to get back there, but I think we've got a group of kids that over the course of time, if we can stay with it for the next 2 or 3 years, that I think we can become pretty competitive.
Now, I'm not sure a lot of people also realize this, but you are also a board certified official from last year. You took some time away from coaching. You refereed as well. Has that helped you on the sideline now that all the nuances of the rules?
Well, I think it does. I think it's it's great. I'm still reffing this year.
Yep.
I've already done 12 or 14 games. A lot of middle school games. I'll be doing some JV games. Obviously, can't do any Class D varsity games or C games of teams that we play. But I think it does because you come in and you stress that from day one. You already know what the couple rule changes are and everything, and how you're going to implement the strategy as far as only having 4 team fouls per quarter and different things like that. So it's all new for a lot of these Washburn kids. Though they haven't been to a lot. Outside of Washburn, they played a lot of basketball in Washburn, but they haven't played a lot outside of Washburn. So it's going to be a lot of fun, Steve.
What do you think? What do you think about those rule changes? And I want to ask Aaron that too after. But what do you think about those rule changes, Coach?
Well, I think it's definitely speeded the game up. But again, in the fourth quarter, when you get to 4 fouls and then the other team has 1, and then it goes into overtime, of course, the fouls don't change going into the overtime. So that can really, really change things because, everything's 2 shots. So if a team only has 1 or 2 fouls going into that overtime, the other team has 4, that can really change a very tight game.
Bob, you got anything for Coach Cummins?
Yeah, you're coming in year 1 at Washburn this year. Program's been down the last few years. What would you consider a successful season at Washburn this year?
Well, we've talked about that. We're not going to be looking at the wins and losses. We're going to be looking at trying to get better each and every day, just improving each and every day. And the kids are having a blast. I mean, they're great to be around. I told them, we played a couple preseason games this weekend, and I told them after that, I said, I don't know you guys. I've only known you for a few weeks now and a little bit this summer, but I felt like and they said the same thing. So it feels like we've been together for a lot longer than that. So I think that's good. They bought into everything. It's they're learning, and there's a steep, learning curve, but they've adjusted to it, and they just want to get better. And, the biggest thing, like in high school basketball too, is, it's one thing to teach it, but, the other thing we want to do is make sure it's an extension of the classroom. So we're trying to develop all around good people as well.
Anything else, Steve or Bob?
I'm good.
All right, thank you. Back to Coach Hutchins. What are your thoughts on the rule changes?
We'll find out as we get going, but I mean, there's still going to be the flow of a basketball game, and I mean, these high school kids are going to quickly adapt, hopefully. Selfishly for our program, we kind of struggled from the line last year overall. So a double bonus, at least you have a chance at hopefully getting a point rather than shooting the front end of a 1-on-1 and coming up short. So that potentially could help us. Now we have a chance there. We're very big. We're strong this year. Most teams on our schedule, I feel like, as if we're going to be the more aggressor team, where that could help us offensively when we're attacking the rim. We could be the ones getting to the line. On the other side of things, defensively, we're going to be playing up tempo, in your face, passing lanes, trapping. So that could change what we want to do. And again, that's why we play a strong regular season, and we'll adapt. I mean, that's the bottom line. We're going to have to adjust and understand it as quickly as possible.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank all you guys, all you coaches. You can definitely stick around. Steve and Bob and I are going to, kind of do predictions. You guys all love those. You guys can stay around or not. That's up to you. But I want to thank all you guys for coming by. All right. Well, Bob, you kind of the guru here. Let's start with Class B, and let's start with Class B girls. Kind of your thoughts on that.
I think going down through Class B girls, obviously, Ellsworth's a favorite. And I think the thing that it separates Ellsworth maybe from Old Town is just the amount of depth that they have. And again, I think teams can stay with them for maybe 3 quarters, but I think when you get the 4th quarter, I think that depth is really going to, wear teams down. So I think, Ellsworth's certainly the favorite there this year. Obviously, they've got an outstanding point guard in Abby Riddell, really good player in Grace Jaffrey, both juniors. They've just got a lot of kids playing basketball there. And the thing I like about them, too, is that they play really, really hard, but they play very relaxed as well. Nothing really seems to bother them. Thing that also, astonished me, too, in the tournament last year is that I don't think I've ever seen a team, girls or boys, shoot the ball like that 3 consecutive games. Old adage is to win a tournament, you've got to survive that bad game or bad shooting night. They never had a bad shooting night in the whole tournament. So that was really what impressed me with them last year. I thought going into the tournament last year, they were probably maybe a year away from possibly winning it. They may have arrived a year soon, but I think they're certainly the favorite there. And then you've got Old Town too, that's got 4 starters back. Probably one of the top players in the league is committed to Husson, Sage Evans. I think the wild card for them too is going to be how good Michaela Emerson shoots the basketball for them. Again, if she's on, they can be very, very difficult to beat. They also have to stay out of foul trouble as well because they're not real deep. But if they can stay out of foul trouble, they can certainly, give Ellsworth all they want as well. So I think, those two teams, I think they're certainly at the top. And then you've got Caribou certainly with Madeline Depre. And they returned some pretty good pieces from a year ago. So I think they're certainly going to be in the hot. Then I think, you get beyond those teams. I think there's about, 6 or 7 teams that are all kind of, we, talked to Marissa Kelly earlier, John Bapst. I think the key for them, they got to find maybe some other scoring too. Obviously, Claire Gattani's back. Has been a 2-year starter. Will play their point guard, and really a lot of the offense goes through her. If she can stay out of foul trouble and maybe find a couple of other scorers to go with her, I think that'll be a key. Brent Barker down at NBI, obviously going to have his kids ready to play. They've got Molly Gray back. Again, key for them, I think, is going to be guard play as well and how well they handle pressure. A couple of teams that are coming up from the KVA or from Class A from last year. Erskine Academy had a lot of freshmen on their roster last year. So they're going to be coming up to Class B this year and be in B North. We won't see them. But again, they're a team that can certainly get to Bangor. Miranda Cook, too, with Karen Magnuson. I think they're going to be probably a team to watch out for. She runs a nice program down there. Presque Isle, anytime you go up to Presque Isle, especially, they always seem to shoot well in that gym. They do lose quite a bit, but they've got sophomore Jan Curtis back. And they always seem to be right there in the tournament mix. But especially on their home court, they're going to be very, very difficult. So let's look at the John Bapst schedule early. They open home with Caribou, go to Old Town, get MDI at home, then they make 2 trips to the county right before Christmas at Presque Isle and at Holton. So that's a real tough start to the season. Herman, we talked a little bit about. They've not sure what they're going to have for guard play this year, but they've certainly got a couple of building blocks with Bella Bowden inside. Brooke Gallup is a junior for them. They're got a pretty good size and veteran coach in Tim Thornton. And then Holton, obviously, especially on their home court, it's going to be really tough. But as far as predictions, though, I really like Ellsworth to come out of that. I just think their depth, the amount of athletes they have, they play great defense, and I like Ellsworth and B girls.
Steve, talk about a couple teams well, Caribou and Presque Isle.
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo what Bob said. I think it's Ellsworth to lose. I think they got better from last year, and they went all the way. So I have a hard time seeing anybody beating Ellsworth. The only one I think could would be Old Town with Evans on the interior, and you talk about Michaela Emerson, but then Taylor Loring as well. One of those other starters returning, her ability to shoot the basketball. And then after them, yes, Caribou will throw, I think, the best player in the conference on the floor, or in the class on the floor every game with Madeline Depre. If you set the over-under at 29.5, what she's going to average this year, I'd hit the over about as hard as I could, because she's going to score over 30 probably just about every game. The problem is, if she does have an off shooting night, Caribou might be in a little trouble. They're going to really need to have somebody else on the floor help her, whether it's Liv Adams, or Madeline Morrow, Ainsley Karen. There's a couple other players too that could help her out. But Depre is really going to have somebody take a little bit of pressure off her, because last year they had Selena Savage who could handle the basketball and kind of relieve some of that pressure. But right now Depre's having to get the ball up the floor. But she is a stud. I mean, she's a star, no doubt about it. There's a reason why she was Big East Player of the Year last year. So Caribou will be in the thick of things just because of how good Depre is. For Presque Isle,
Caribou graduate the Morrow girls too, or are they still
Carly? They graduated Carly Morrow, and then Madeline, her little sister, will be I think she's a senior this year. Coach Corrigan could probably confirm that a little better than I could, but he's shaking his head yes. So for Presque Isle, yes, they lost Anna Jondro from last year. Their struggle this year will be to score the basketball. Jan Curtis is a sophomore. Her little sister now, Nora Curtis, is a freshman. She started in their preseason games as well. Georgia Maynard has really shot the ball well in the preseason. Addie Claremont is a talented guard who's got length. Kira Tompkins comes off the bench. She's a great defender. Still looking for some confidence on the offensive end, but she can be dangerous in the open floor. So Presque Isle, they're pretty young. They're junior and sophomore heavy. They only got 2 seniors in Maynard and Gilmore. And Gilmore, who also will start, can shoot the basketball. So, yeah, Presque Isle's tough on their home floor. But I don't expect to see them in the top 2 or 3. But Prescal, certainly, I would expect them to make the tournament.
So I'm going with Ellsworth too. So kind of consensus there. So they probably won't win now because of that. But now we'll go to Class B boys. And we talked about it. Orono's got most of the team back. So I would think they're going to be right then. We talked about the best player on the floor in girls being on Caribou, where the best player in boys is on Ellsworth. So they have that every time they step on the floor. There's going to be some other teams in the mix. I'm going to take it over to Bob to do his what he does best. Go ahead.
I can start with the defending state champions in Orono. Again, they've got 4 starters back. I saw them play yesterday on the tournament over to Brewer. They played Brewer and also played Central, but they played Brewer, won by about 14 or so. But thing that impressed me is those kids have gotten a lot stronger. Pierce Walston really finishes well around the rim, distributes the ball really well, just really played under control. I don't think he turned the ball over yesterday, but he was very impressive. Ben Francis, who was a running back for them in football on that state championship team, again, he's gotten stronger and he's got real good range from 3-point land as well. Another kid that came off the bench for them, Bergen Soderberg, is a sophomore, can really extend defense as well, shoots the ball very well for them. So they've got a lot of kids that can put the ball in the basket. And I think the other thing with Orono too is those kids know how to win. They won the state championship in basketball last year, won the state 8-man football championship this year. A lot of those kids that played football, again, they've gotten bigger, they've gotten stronger, and certainly know how to win there. And again, they've been tournament tested too. They had a big league against Ellsworth in the regional final last year. Withstood a rally and was able to hold on to win. Same thing with Oceanside as well. So those kids, again, just winning, breeds success as well. So I think certainly Orono is going to be very, very difficult to beat there. Also, they've got another kid off the bench, Brady Hughes, as a sophomore. Again, he's going to be tough to handle as well. So, you start with Orono, and then, obviously Ellsworth, Chance Mercier, again, like the Caribou girls with Depre, again, he's going to have big nights for them to be successful. But they've also got a lot of other pieces as well. I think the key for them is going to be how Dawson Curtis develops. He came off the bench for them as a freshman, but he's about 6'3" or so. And I think he's going to have a real big year for them. And I think it's going to be a real key piece for Ellsworth. Talked a little bit about with the coaches when they were on Maranacook. Keegan McClure is going to be one of the top players in Class B North this year. Thing with Maranacook, they're going to play a very interesting schedule this year. They're playing some Class C South teams in Winthrop, Derigo kind of teams in their area. They're also playing Class A Mount Blue, who's going to be they should be a solid Class A North team as well. But Keegan McClure is certainly a player to watch out for. Travis Magnuson does a great job with that program as well. And again, they're certainly going to be mixed when they come to Bangor. Probably the biggest team in Class B will be Old Town. Again, they've got 6'7" Emmett Byther in the middle. I'm thinking they might be a little bit different than what they've been the last few years. Typically, they like to get up and down the floor, shoot a lot of threes. They lost a couple of the real good guards from last year, but Grayson Tebow can certainly shoot the basketball. I have not seen them in preseason. Be interesting. Maybe they move him over to a point guard role this year, but certainly Old Town's going to be the mix. Another really tough matchup for people is going to be Brendan Mahaney. He can, step out, hit the three, or he's a big, strong kid inside for them as well to complement Byther. And they had a very good JV team last year as well. So maybe some of those kids kind of fill some roles this year as well. Caribou we've talked about as well. Again, junior guard Cayman Sargent, outstanding player for them. They're going to go, 9, 10, 11 deep. They like to get up and down the floor, and they're going to be really, really tough as well. Bucksport returns their entire team from a year ago, and they had a couple of kids that made second team in the Big East Conference, going to be led by Evan Donnell and Caden Blackwell. So those are a couple kids to watch out for this year. Again, that can be a tough place to play. So again, there's no easy nights out in the Big East and B North this year. Winslow, they've got a veteran coach in Ken Lidloff. They've also going to have some size as well. They lost a couple key kids, but I think they could certainly be in the tournament mix as well. Washington Academy probably improved more than anybody else in the conference last year. They beat Mount View in a prelim last year by 30. Excuse me, they beat Mount View in the prelim last year. When they played the regular season, Mount View beat them by 30. And anytime you go down to East Machias, that's gonna be a tough battle. They've got some good size too, and junior Gabe Layton and their sophomore Clay Crossman's good. So again, and that 2-3 zone that they play can be a pest for teams to get ready for as well. So they're going to be tough. Holton was a team that struggled down the stretch last year, but they do return Isaiah Irvin, who missed a lot last year to injury. MDI was competitive last year, struggled to score at times, but they returned Spencer Lorendo back. Team that I think could be interesting this year. Saw them play in the preseason is John Bapst. They have a new coach this year, and Chris Bryant. He's served as assistant coach at Huston the last 7 years, and they've totally not going to give too much of a scouting report to Kyle, but I'm sure he's going to know before Friday anyway. But they basically rotate 5 new guys they've got 18 on the roster. They got 18 kids on the varsity roster right now. So he's basically bringing in 5 new players every 2 minutes, basically press, run, trap, every inch of the floor, try to get up as many shots as possible. So,
there's your scouting report.
Yeah, right. But I mean, for what they have, they've got a 6'5" kid from Switzerland, Mael Esser, solid player, but they don't have maybe that standout kid, but they had a lot of success in soccer this year. A lot of those kids play, and they're the type of kids that they're going to get after it. They're going to play hard. They're well conditioned. They can kind of create maybe some havoc for some teams, especially teams that don't have real good guard play. But talking to Coach Bryant too prior to the
Herman,
Dexter
Bob?
game. Was that?
You say that's Herman?
No,
John Bapst.
Baps?
Yeah.
System basketball at Baps this year?
Little. It's let's put it this way. It's we had Coach Simbulik there for about 12 years. This is probably the polar opposite of what Coach Simbulik did. So, but I don't know, it'll be interesting though. And Coach Bryant was saying that, I mean, there's nights that we're going to get absolutely pounded doing that. However, I mean, we also, it also probably gives us a chance. We're probably not a team, or Naps is probably not a team that can really grind out possessions, play in the half court just with the personnel that they have. So they're a team that needs to get a lot of turnovers, kind of get out and transition, kind of make some things happen with the athletes that they have. So again, they could be an interesting team to watch this winter. So. And then, Foxcroft Academy this year, new coach Charlie Beal. They returned some pretty good pieces from last year, particularly senior Jaden Richard. I think this is the last Richard to come up through. So, but he's tough. And again, they've had some success, obviously, in football, and they've got some pieces there. And Mark Reed at Herman, they started all freshmen and sophomores last year. Has some real good size, particularly junior forward Maddox Kinney. And then I think the key for them too is going to be their guard play, and if they can make some perimeter shots as well. That was a point of struggle for them last year, but again, if they can establish some good guard play, I think they can certainly get to Bangor. So that's kind of a breakdown of Class B boys. But I think in the end, I'm going to go with the Ellsworth Eagles to win Class B. I like they've got the best player in Chance Mercier, and I'm going to go with Ellsworth and Class B boys.
Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah, Orono and Ellsworth, definitely the top 2 teams. I think the third best team will end up being Caribou, and I'm not just going to say that because Coach Corrigan's in the call, but I really honestly do think that Caribou will be the third best team in Class B. I got a chance to watch him play in the preseason, and the name that I'm going to say that you're going to hear about is going to be Landon Belanger. I mean, this dude is a walking bucket. He is a scorer. He's a baller. He's a real athletic player. He can shoot the ball from deep. I love Tristan Robbins inside. Coach Corrigan's nephew, Owen, I think sees the floor really, really well. He's a traditional point guard. I just think Caribou's got a lot of weapons, and they were a 6 seed last year, went down to Orono in the quarterfinals. But I think having that young core get some tournament experience against a team like Orono is really going to benefit them in the long run. And Coach Corrigan's, postseason success that he's had is certainly speaks for itself. Cayman Sargent, a name that has been brought up a couple of times here. No surprise, he's a really talented guard. Can shoot the ball, handles pressure well. He's strong. He's gotten stronger this year. Really, all the Caribou kids have. They got some Dylan Bouchard as well. I mean, there's guys that I'm forgetting. Braden Brescia. There's other ones too, but I just think Caribou's got a lot of depth, a lot of talent, and I'm really looking forward to watching the Vikings. Another county team with Presque Isle. They were the 7 seed last year, knocked down Winslow in the quarterfinals. They lost Malachi Cummings, which was the vast majority of their offense. They're going to really focus with Jack Buck on the inside. He's about 6'4", 6'5". He's real strong. And then it's seeing who's going to take a step forward for the Wildcats. They're certainly in a rebuilding situation. They're very young. Will it be Brent Greenlaw on the outside? Wyatt Young can shoot the basketball. If he gets his feet set in an open look, I mean, he can really knock it down. Case Mbua has been their 5th starter so far in the preseason. He's just a sophomore, but he's got a lot of potential. And they got a pretty good 8th grade class that will be coming in next year. So, the Wildcats are looking towards the future. But if you do not bring your A game up to Presque Isle and Wyatt Young knocks down 6 or 7 threes, which he can do, you could be in trouble. And if Jack Buck is controlling things on the interior, don't never take the Wildcats easy, because that's what I think Winslow did in the quarterfinals last year. And the Wildcats can certainly beat you. So there's no easy game in Class B. Doesn't matter who you play, you're gonna have to bring your A game. But certainly, I think Ellsworth and Orono will be the 2 best teams. But I'm gonna tell you, Caribou's right there. They would not surprise me if Caribou ends up beating both those teams. But I'll pick the experience, and I'll go with the Red Riots to repeat again this year.
And I'm gonna go with Ellsworth. It's gonna be a great class. Every game is gonna be fun to watch. Funny will be on our East Dominion Sports Media. Steve will have plenty on HOU, but definitely every game could go. It wouldn't be a surprise. It wouldn't be a surprise if not a huge upset any night. That's for sure.
Yeah.
December 14th, Orono at Ellsworth. I am looking forward to being there that night.
And Bob has that circled on his calendar. And
I have that circled on my calendar, absolutely. So, one last thing about B boys, though, I think we talked about B girls. Certainly, the gap between Ellsworth, Old Town, and everybody else. Again, I think Ellsworth and Orono in the boys probably the 2 best teams, but I don't think the gap between those 2 and everybody else is that great. I think B boys is probably as deep in talent as we've seen in a while.
We're going to skip over to Class C girls now, where I'll take it over to you in a minute, Bob. But I think Dexter, Penobscot Valley, Matt, and Knox are definitely at the top of that class. Dexter's the defending regional champs. They got 4 of their 5 starters back. PBHS, Ellie Austin is back. They got a solid group back. They got Riley Moulton, the sophomore, back. So they're definitely. It was them and Dexter last year in the regional final in a very tight game. Definitely see a lot of tight games between those 2 teams. But Matt is going to cause trouble with their height and could cause trouble. I mean, Dexter can match up with that with Peach, but definitely that's going to be a tough matchup for anybody. Matt Alcock is. Bob, I'll take it over to you.
Obviously, Dexter, I think the style of play that they play is very conducive to winning tournaments. They play great half-court man-to-man defense. They execute very well on the half-court, especially when they get that high-low game going, get the ball inside the Peach. You usually are going to make layups most nights. They're not going to rely on a lot of, they're not going to live and die with the 3. So I think their style of play is very, again, conducive to winning the tournament. And then you got another team too, Penobscot Valley. Obviously, they've got a lot of talent too. They're going to play a different style of play than Dexter. They're going to rely on their pressure, especially with their length. That 1-2-1-1 press that they play is very, very difficult to handle. But not only do they have length, they've got athletic length as well. So they've got kids long arms and just very, very athletic. Great guard play too. Ellie Austin, Riley Moulton, very good players for them. Again, I think probably one thing you look at Class C, I was talking to the Borno girls coach, Robbie Sinclair yesterday excuse me, Derek Sinclair, I don't know, Derek Sinclair. They had dropped down to C this year, and he was commenting about the amount of height, and he's got some good size this year as well with Orno. They're going to be much improved, but amount of teams with really good size this year. Mananock's another team we talked about, really good size. Key for them is, they had lost a tough 1 point game to Central in the tournament last year in that 4-5 matchup. Led most of the game and then, struggled to put it away at the foul line last year. They had a difficult time on the line last year, but again, if they can, close games out this year, they're going to be very, very difficult to beat as well.
Allen,
Again,
Allen is no joke, Bob. We played
no.
them a couple of times, and their length, their athleticism, the way they spread the floor and drop back in from a 1-2-1-1 to a 1-3-1, like they're not a fun team to play against. They played Sopo and Oceanside this weekend. I beat both of those guys, and they're barely a C school in terms of size. And most of that team right now are sophomore and juniors. I mean, I wouldn't want to be Coach Grant. I don't know.
No, that's
Dexter's tough, and that's a tough system too. But I just feel like Howland with winning the states and stuff, they have a lot of momentum. Those girls know how to win now, since all those girls just come off a gold ball on the soccer side of things.
Absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, they've been in the final three the last 4 years. They won it in 2019, and yeah, no, as you said, coaching those kids certainly know how to win. But I do think there's a little bit of separation, though. You get Dexter, Penobscot Valley, MA, and then I think you look the rest of Class C too. Saw Central yesterday. Izzy Allen's going to be out for extended period of time anyway. So obviously that inhibits their scoring too, and again, certainly they've got an outstanding player in sophomore Mary Allen. Really distributes the basketball well, but again, they've got to try to find some other kids that can score the basketball for them as well to be successful. Hodgson's got a new coach in Matt Day came over from East Grand, who had some success there, got to the semifinals in Class D. Anna Oliver, probably one of the top players in Class C. Another team too, Fort Kent got to the soccer state championship this year, returned a pretty good nucleus from last year. Another team that I think could be a tournament team this year, and they dropped down from Class B to Class C, is Bucksport. They've got a sophomore guard in Jetta Shook that's a good athlete for them, and they returned the majority of their team from last year. And a lot of those soccer or softball kids are now starting to play basketball for them, and they've had a lot of success there in those sports. So I think Bucksport, looked at their schedule, I can see them certainly winning 10, 11 ball games this year and make it to Bangor. Another team returns a lot this year too is Narragansett. They've got 9 of their 11 kids back from last year. Really well coached with Helen Thompson, and then George Stevens Academy's got another shot maybe to get to Bangor. They've got a new coach this year, and Amanda Ash, that was a real good player down there as well. But I concur with Coach Ladd, though. Just the talent and length and athleticism, I'm going to go with Penobscot Valley to win C girls.
I do want to add another team that dropped down from Class B. I saw them play yesterday. Mount View struggled last year in Class B, but Coach Michael Savage doing a very good job with them, and they did lose to Dexter and pretty handily, but then they played Madison very well, and I think they might see some improvement during the year, and so we'll see about that. Obviously, I'm going to see Coach Bell's PCHS team a lot, and I expect them to improve as the year goes on to have a young team. But so I saw Mount View yesterday; they did look pretty good. But Steve, your thoughts on Class C? Girls?
Yeah, I mean, I get a chance to broadcast pretty much all the Class C games at the tournament last year for WHOU, and I'll echo a lot of what Bob's saying. I mean, he's coming up with a lot of good information there. Penobscot Valley just came up short last year, but with Coach Case and bringing a lot of their nucleus back, and they built a great program there in Howland. Dexter, the results speak for themselves. Central, once Izzy Allen gets back with Mary and Allen in the backcourt, and that's about a dynamic duo as you're going to find in Class C, or really in all classes. It doesn't matter. what it is. Fort Kent, yes, I think Fort Kent will challenge. I mean, they did lose Larissa Daigle. She went down in the quarterfinal last year with a pretty bad injury, but they bring back a lot of their nucleus, and Lily Oliver, a really talented player for them. So I expect Fort Kent to be near the top, but Penobscot Valley, I would agree with Bob. It would be my pick in the preseason to take home a regional title.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be another PVHS Dexter Classic in the regional final. Another close one that comes down the end. I will go with Penobscot Valley in that. But again, it wouldn't surprise me, and it honestly wouldn't surprise me if Mananoka upset Penobscot Valley or Dexter.
Yeah, Mananoka plays Presque Isle on Tuesday. The Wildcats travel down to Lincoln to play them, and I looked at some of the PVHS scores. I mean, they played MDI, who's a pretty good Class B team, and beat them by 23. So Penobscot Valley's got quite a bit of talent,
and they beat Oceanside.
Right? Yeah.
They got the backside of that one, Steve. MDI is good, but they were just so fast getting up and down the floor and so athletic and so disruptive.
Yeah.
But they're huge. They are just such a big team.
So again, I'm going to go with Penobscot Valley in a close one in the regional final. But again, it wouldn't surprise me with Mananoka. Again, as you guys mentioned, if and when Izzy Allen comes back, that changes the whole dynamic with that team, who could end up a lowest seed because she's out and be kind of scary to one of those Penobscot Valley Dexter.
Yeah, she hit 6 threes. I mean,
yeah,
beat anybody.
That could make them a threat against one of the top teams in a quarterfinal game. So a lot of things could happen there. But yes, that's what I'm predicting. So we're going to Class C boys, where to me it looks like it's wide open as ever. There's no clear cut pick. So Bob, what are your thoughts on Class C boys?
Yeah, I think it's very different than Class B boys. You look at Class B boys, a lot of the teams returning have a really, good quarterback. Class C, a lot of the teams really graduate a lot. So I think it's going to be teams kind of finding their way throughout the course of the season. As you said, there's really no clear-cut favorite. I think a team to watch out for this year, and they're coming down from Class B to Class C, but they're still playing primarily Class B schedule, is Mount View. If they can get enough, they're probably going to be a low seed because they play Oceanside, they play Madomic Valley. So, I mean, their schedule's really, really tough. So, again, the key for them is going to be get enough wins. But if they can get to Bangor, and I think they'll probably be a low seed, they could very well win it. They might have one of the best players in Class C in senior guard Noah Hurd. Very good three-sport athlete for them. So I think Mount View could be very, very difficult. Fort Kent, they got to the regional final last year for the first time, I believe, in school history. And they're going to return one of the top players in senior Ethan Daigle. Fort Fairfield, who was a semifinal team last year, I think will be a contender. Again, that's going to be a real good opening night game at home with Fort Kent. Calais graduated all 5 starters last year, but they've got some kids off the bench that played very well for them last year. Particularly senior Jeremy Turner. He had a real big tournament for them a year ago off the bench, and it's now going to be one of the leaders for Calais. So depending on how some of those other kids gel, they could certainly be in the mix as well. Piscataquis, I think Piscataquis will have 2 of the better players of the region. Sophomore Brady God, his father Brian Gaw is going to be coaching them after many years coaching the Piscataquis girls. Got the boys' job there this year. Again, key for them, I think we talked earlier off air, Mark, is their depth. They don't have a lot of players, and they do have are fairly inexperienced, but certainly senior forward Scott Chadbourne, sophomore guard Brady Goff, certainly key for Piscataquis. But I could certainly see them with those kids, possibly getting to Bangor for a tournament. George Stevens Academy, they've got a lot of athletes off that Northern Maine Championship soccer team, a couple of real good guards, experienced guards, and Wyatt Allen and Patrick Yagan. Penobscot Valley, I don't know if they're a contender to win it, but they can certainly get to Bangor and cause some problems for some people. They gave Calais all they could want for 3 quarters last year in the quarterfinal game. And Coach Jeremy DeRost always has his kids. They always seem to grind out possessions. They play good defense. Again, the question for them is, do they have enough scoring to be able to maybe knock off some of those higher teams? But they're they're never a fun team to play against because they're just gonna make you grind. Another team I think to watch out for too that's been a solid contender in Class D, moving up to Class C is going to be Machias. They've got a new coach this year in Chad Fitzsimmons. Came over. He was coach at Washington Academy for a number of years, and they've got a nice sophomore in Mickey Fitzsimmons, junior guard Lucas Robichaux, and then also they've got some size too. Bobby Richardson and Hayden Reynolds and Denver Ferguson. So they've got some pretty good pieces off a team that lost to Southern Aroostook last year in the final. And I think they've certainly got enough to get to Bangor as well. And then the other team we want to talk about too is Mananoque Academy. Brian McDormand's been around the game forever. And certainly their numbers have been down the last few years. I know he's really kind of created a buzz with the basketball up there now. And he's got a lot of sophomores playing, and they're going to get better as the year goes on. And I think without a dominant team in Class C this year, they could certainly have a shot to get to Bangor as well. But team I'm going to go with, and again, people are going to think I'm crazy as the season goes on because they may not win a lot of games in the regular season, but I'm going to go with Mountain View Mustangs this year. I think they might have the best player, and in a year where there's not a dominant team, I think they might have enough to win Class C this year.
Well, I don't think you're crazy because that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
I saw them. I saw them. I saw them yesterday, and I thought this before that because I saw them quite a bit last year. And they're going to benefit the most from dropping to Class C. Bucksport will be, well, they're in B in basketball, never mind. But
boys, yeah, the girls are in C, yeah.
Mount View will definitely benefit. Noah Hurd is good. They got some. Their starting lineup is pretty good, and they have the experience. Most of those players played soccer too. Most of their basketball players, and they got a bunch of good athletes. And Hurd is dynamic out there. But again, they're not going to win a lot of games. They're going to have to get in the playoffs and probably win a prelim game, just to make the tournament. So if they can do that, I'll pick them. But it's not going to be easy for them to make it. But Steve, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would pick Mount View as well. I'll touch on just some of the county teams real quick. Yeah, Fort Kent with Ethan Daigle. Drew Deshane had an injury last year. He's back. He's 6'6" on the inside. Toby Narana, he is a sophomore. He hit about 5 threes, I think, in the preseason game I watched against Presque. They only lost by 3 to the Wildcats. But Coach Sear always does a great job on the sideline, so wouldn't be surprised to see the Warriors get back into contention. Fort Fairfield is a team I want to make sure people keep an eye on. They got to the semifinals last year without, arguably, I would say their best player in Graydon King, had a hand injury. He's back this year. They're pretty young still, and getting that experience last year will only benefit them coming into this season. So really look out for the Tigers. Hodgson has a really good freshman class coming in. They're under a new head coach, Sam Henderson, took over for Matt Oliver. I really want to say keep your eye out on the Hawks here over the next couple of years. At Mananoque Academy with Coach Brian McDormand, working with WHOU, had a chance to chat with him quite a bit. And I was down there in Lincoln for a travel tournament for middle school, and he said that his 7th and 8th grade class is good. And yes, they are. I mean, he's got some talent coming. So Coach McDormand, as he's one of the smartest minds in the state when it comes to basketball, and it's really exciting to see him hop back on the sidelines after doing what he did in Old Town and now leading the Lynx. But for my pick, yeah, I think Mount View with a drop down to Class C. I was really impressed by them over the past couple of years. I'll hop on the bandwagon and roll with the Mustangs.
All right, let's go. Let's go to Class D girls, where for the last number of years it's been the Southern Aroostook Invitational, and I was say that they're definitely the favorite again. But as Coach Urquhart pointed out, Wisdom has the best shooter every time they're on the floor, in Lily Roy. But yes, I'm going to go with Southern Aroostook on that. And Bob, your thoughts on Class D girls?
Yeah, obviously Southern Aroostook's a favorite too. The 5-time defending regional champions. They've won 4 state titles in that period of time. And again, I think the thing that separates Southern Aroostook from everybody else in Class D is certainly their depth. They've got 3 Shields girls on the team. And seniors, Maddie and Cami Shields, and then sophomore Ellie Shields, and then Emily Landry, another starter they've got coming back. So I think, certainly they're the favorite just because of their depth. But obviously Wisdom, we talked about Lily Roy, and, she had a phenomenal tournament a year ago, and just an outstanding regional final game. I think Southern Aroostook just maybe wore them down towards the end and made a few more plays. But that was one of the best games in the tournament last year, the Southern Rustic Wisdom Final. They also got a very good sophomore guard too in Ava Lerman. But I certainly look for them to make a deep run. Then beyond those two, I think maybe the next team might be Stearns. They had a lot of freshmen last year, now sophomores, but I certainly look for them to make a run. I talked a little bit about Central Rustic coming down from Class C to Class D. So I think those are probably your top four. And then Katahdin had a very young team last year as well. Just looking at last year's tournament program, they only had one senior, one junior on last year's roster. They do return one of the top players in Class D in Hunter Hartsgrove. And they're still going to be very young this year. But last year they had a lot of eighth graders and freshmen. But I think they could, certainly be a top five team as well. That team, I think, might be able to make, they haven't been to Bangor in a long time, is Bangor Christian. And they've done a really nice job kind of building. They didn't have a program, I think 3 or 4 years ago, didn't win a game 2 years ago, won 3 games, got a prelim last year. They only had one senior last year. And then Hannah Reed, formerly Hannah Sokobi, coaches them and starting to build a nice program there. And they've got some decent young kids coming up as well. So I think Bangor Christian maybe ends that drought and gets to Bangor this year as well. But I think certainly Southern Rustic. I like Southern Rustic and Wisdom in the final, and I'm going to go with Southern Rustic.
Steve, your thoughts?
Southern Rustic. I mean, it's just it's crazy. I mean, it's, as we mentioned, the Southern Rustic Invitational. That really has been what it's been. Last year, I think, was Wisdom shot. That was their chance, and they were that close. And you just mentioned the 3 shields. Lexi Ratcliffe, who was in Hodgson, is now back at Southern Rustic. Only gives Coach Urquhart another weapon. Yes, Lily Roy is a great player, no doubt about it. But certainly, I just think the talent of Southern Rustic is just too much. And Central Rustic as well, under new head coach this year, Carl Mullen, who was a JV coach for Jason Woodworth on the boys' side for quite a few years, is now the head coach for the girls program. Abby Haynes and Riley Pierce, their 2 senior leaders, I definitely think will get the Panthers into a top 4 spot. And again, they won a state championship just a few years ago, just before COVID hit. But the Panthers always been a great program, a great school. Lily Burt, a talented freshman. I wouldn't be surprised to see Central Rustic get back to the tournament. But Southern Rustic is just, I mean, they're a juggernaut, right? And they're my pick.
And mine as well. We'll move on to Class D boys now, where Southern Rustic's bringing back a lot there too. So, what's that, Titletown or whatever up there? Diabrook. But a team that definitely can compete. The coach is still here, I think. Skank, I think they got, with their schedule, and they're going to be tournament ready once they get there. Obviously, Southern Rustic's going to be the favorite. And Burpee's back, and they're loaded as can be. But also another team is Bangor Christian, who is I think they've got the other Reed playing now as well, and they've got a lot of pieces back from last year. But Bob, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I think you start with Southern Rustic. Again, I don't think they're an overwhelming favorite this year, or maybe even the favorite. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 teams this year in Class D that could potentially win the whole thing. But we'll start talking about Southern Rustic. Again, 2-time defending state champions, and thing that last year I think they might have even been better defensively than they were the year before when they won it. The two in the quarterfinal and the semifinal, they were hold Jonesport Beals and Bangor Christian in the 20s, which, I mean, you do that to anybody in tournament, that's pretty impressive. And then they shot the lights out in the Northern Maine final of the state championship games. So Coach Brett Russell certainly, got it going up there at Dyer Brook. They did graduate 3 senior starters from last year's team, but they do return, again, probably one of the best players in the league in Dylan Burpee, and then also junior Trafton Russell. And then a kid that I think will be a tough matchup for people too, because he's such a wide body and came off the bench for them last year, is Brennan Burpee. So again, he's going to be a tough matchup for people on the inside. Then you talk about Bangor Christian. Again, they had a key injury in that game last year in the semifinals when Jalen Reed went down in the third quarter. That was about a 1 or 2 point game when he went down, and they hung right with Southern Rustic for about 3 quarters. And then when he went out, they really kind of struggled to find their way offensively. And I don't believe maybe scored 1 or 2 points the remainder of the contest, and Southern Rustic pulled away. But they've got him back. If he can stay healthy, they've got his brother Rayshawn, that's a freshman. They've got a very good freshman class coming in this year. Their numbers are really good. They've got a JV program for the first time in a while, so they've got that going for them as well. And Conrad Strabel, can play inside, outside, good shooter as well for them. And another thing that's going to be interesting too for them this year is they're going to play their home basketball games at the Frost Insurance Center this year as well for the first time. So something certainly going for them. I know they're excited about that. Talked about Coach Hutchins' Skank Wolverines. I certainly think they're a contender to win the whole thing. Yeah, I think you look at the top 3 teams, I think they're all 1A, 1B, 1C. I don't think there's a whole lot of separation between those teams. Again, Mason McDonough and Gabe Whitehouse certainly as seniors, big strong kids for Skank. Kid that shoots the ball fairly well too, Braden Osborne on the perimeter. And then, obviously adding Owen Wyman from Herman, I think will be a big help as well. The other team too, Eastern Bears. They got to the state soccer championship this year. They've got a lot of pieces from that team, and I think they're going to be athletic and be able to get up and down the floor as well. So Eastern, I think, certainly, possibly a top 4 team. And then you look at Stearns Minutemen too, dropping down from Class D to Class C. They've got a couple seniors, particularly Caleb Shearer, Caleb Raymond as well. And they returned most of their roster from a year ago. So I certainly think Stearns, is that top 5. Jonesport Beals always pretended perennial tournament team, and got a big sophomore class for them, and they're going to be led by junior guard Caden Beal. And then I like Coach Cummings' Washburn team possibly get to Bangor this year. Big sophomore class, and I know that Coach is certainly bringing a lot of excitement up to Washburn too, and they haven't been in a while. So I think they get an outside shot certainly to get to Bangor as well. But going predictions here, I'm going to go with I'm going to go Bangor Christian Skank in the final with Bangor Christian.
There you go. I'll go with Southern Rustic and Skank in the final, and Southern Rustic. Steve?
Yeah, the only team that we don't want to touch on is Central Rustic, dropping from C to D. A name I want you to remember that you're going to hear from for the next 4 years is going to be Jaleel Joseph. He's a freshman, really talented player. He's got a lot of potential. So he can really score the basketball. He's crafty on the interior. So I just think that's a name I want people to hear now. Because he's going to score a lot of points for the Panthers, and his coach scored 1,000 points. I wouldn't be surprised to see Mr. Joseph get there as well. But I think Coach Hudson convinced me. Hearing him talk about his team and getting better and getting stronger, I'm going to go with Skank.
There you go. So next, Bob, we're not going to spend a lot of time on it, but touch on Class A, because we do have teams in our area and actually favorites in that class in our area. So we want to touch on that a little bit.
Talking girls or boys right now?
Go girls first.
Start with the girls, okay. I think you can start with Hamden Academy. They're going to drop down from Class AA to Class A this year. They lost a really good player in Bella McLaughlin, who is now playing at Providence College. But again, that program, they always play great defense. They've got a lot of kids playing there, and a couple of key kids to watch out for are Lucy Wiles and senior, and also forward Lauren Voder. And what I understand, they've got an absolutely loaded freshman class there. So Coach Winchester's going to be absolutely loaded there at Hamden Academy for a while. Then I think beyond that, it's pretty wide open. Coney returns a lot of their kids from last year's number 3 seed, and they've got a little bit of a resurgence in basketball going in Augusta after having been down for a while. Skank, lost a lot from 2 years ago off that state championship team, but took their lumps last year, but with a young team. But I think they're going to be back in the mix this year. And a team that impressed me yesterday over at the tournament over in Brewer, the Smoky Lawrence tournament, was Brewer. Again, new coach this year, and Tana Ross played at University of Maine, and she's bringing a lot of excitement to basketball over Brewer. They press full court the whole game. They shoot a lot of threes. They get a lot of kids that can make shots. The two flag girls, Allie, and who's a junior, and then a freshman, Abby Flag, really impressive yesterday. And they've got a lot of really good pieces there in Class A girls. So I think Brewer could very well be a top 4 team potentially in Class A girls.
You going with Hampden?
I'm going to go with Hampden to win it. Yeah.
Yeah, I will as well. Any thoughts on that, Steve?
Hey, I think it's Hampden's to lose. I'll go with Hampden.
Go with Class A boys, Bob.
Class A boys, I think certainly Hampden Academy. They've got Zach McLaughlin, who will be probably one of the best players in that region this year. And they've got some really good pieces to go with him, and they've got good size, probably the most complete team in the region. JJ Wolfington, and then the Hennigan brothers, Andy and Liam, to complement him as well. And Russ Bartlett's probably run one of the top programs in the state, regardless of class. Doesn't seem possible looking at him, but he's been there 18, 19 years now, and just always a contender year in and year out. Then I think beyond that, Messalonsky, they upset Nokomis last year as the number 7 seed. They returned most of their roster from a year ago, and they got increasingly better down the stretch. They beat Nokomis in the quarterfinal, but they also took Brewer to overtime. Brewer won the state championship last year and took them to overtime late in the season last year. But they're going to be very athletic, exciting to watch this year. And then I think you look at Nokomis, new coach and Josh Grant this year, and they return a really good guard in Dawson Townsend, who plays with Ace and Cooper Flag during the summer. Obviously you think Nokomis, you're thinking the Flag brothers and everything, but they're still going to be a contender this year, and despite the loss of obviously outstanding players. And then Brewer won the state championship last year. They graduated all 5 starters, but it's a lot of excitement in Brewer right now with basketball. They got a lot of kids playing. Numbers are really good. And they've got some kids that in blowout situations last year were able to get some time. Those kids are now ready to fill some roles. And they've got a new coach this year and veteran basketball coach Carl Parker. So those kids are going to play hard, they're going to defend, and they're going to get after it, or they're not going to play for Coach Parker. So if anybody knows Coach Parker like I do, then those kids are going to play hard. So Coney, just the system that they have, they like to press, run, get up and down the floor. Probably one of the better players to be sophomore guard Parker Morin. He's a quarterback on their football team, just a really good athlete. Mount Blue, Troy Norton, really good player over there, is now coaching them. And then he's got his son Carter Norton, that's a junior, and I think Mount Blue will be in the mix as well. Lawrence is always going to defend. They're going to play hard. Might be a little bit of a building year for them this year, but they're going to get after defensively. And then Camden Hills, I think, will be improved. They have some really good tradition at Camden Hills, but I think it's really Hampden's, and then I think everybody else. I think it's fairly even, about 2 to about 7, but I think certainly Hampden's the cut above everybody else, and I predict Hampden Academy to win Class A.
Steve?
Yep. Hampden would be my pick with Bartlett in his 21st year coaching. McLaughlin averaged 23 points a game last year, and he was a 50, 40, 80 guy. 50% from the floor, 40% from 3, 84% from the free throw line. And Wolfington, 14 points a game. They're both 6'2". Hampden would certainly be, definitely my pick to win it all. Messalonsky, though, with Merrick Smith, I mean, he's 6'10". So when you have a guy like that, he's just a junior, 13 points and 13 rebounds last year. So Messalonsky would be my runner-up, but definitely going to go with the talented duo with McLaughlin and Wolfington to lead Coach Bartlett to another final.
I'm picking Hampden too, but it always seems to be not last year because of Brewer, but usually seems like something odd happens in the Class A tournament every year. So, but I'm picking Hampden, but look for strange things come February. Now we're going to wrap this up with each of us are going to go around just kind of say what we're looking forward to this year and any final thoughts. I can start. just looking forward to this getting going Friday night. I'll be in Dexter for Penguin Dexter boys, and a full week the week after in Foxcroft Academy in Guilford. I'm looking forward to actually going to Valley. I know some games at Valley for the first time this year. We got a Forest Hills doubleheader there, which will be kind of rowdy, and then we got when PCHS girls and boys are at Valley, we got that. So that's something new for us, and looking forward to that, and looking forward just to the season getting started. Steve?
Yeah, it's the best time of the year. There's no doubt about it. It's exciting. I have lived and breathed Maine high school basketball since I was a kid, and now I get a chance to cover it and then watch all the kids from when they're in middle school to now when they graduate high school, and then see them after school. Like the other day, I went out and had supper with Griffin Jarrett, who was a great player for Presque Isle, who averaged over 30 points a game his senior year. So now plays an umpy, and now he's a car salesman in town. So I get to still saw Parker Depre not too long ago. So just seeing the kids, what they can do on the floor, and the excitement that they bring and the product that they bring, that's really what it's all about. That's why we do what we do, is to make sure they get all the coverage and the love and the promotion and their credit, because that's really what it's all about. And looking forward to another year. It'd be my 11th year for WHOU broadcasting. Now I'm expanding into doing a podcast with Big Time Hoops, which is another platform with Tom Bard called Northbound, just to get some more coverage for the northern schools, Bangor North. That there's a lot of coverage for the Southern Maine schools. I feel like a lot of these Northern Maine teams don't get enough coverage, so that's what we're going to try to do. But it'll be exciting.
Excellent, Bob.
I'm just looking forward to being in the gym this year. And I'm involved with other sports, football, baseball, do a lot of public address, but basketball, I think I have a real fondness for. Just feeling nostalgia as we, get ready to start the season. It's just something special about Maine high school basketball that I'm not sure that now I'm sure other states have more talented players year in and year out, and we don't produce a lot of Division I talent, but it's not really about that. It's just communities coming together, supporting their kids, and just being around basketball people in the gym all winter. Winters can be tough and winters can be long in Maine. It's ironic though that we're broadcasting tonight and recording this podcast where it's snowing outside. So, or at least it is at my house. So, but no, I'm just really looking forward to being in the gym, just being around basketball people, talking basketball, watching basketball, and just looking forward to being with my table mates at the scorers table, either at the Cross Center or when John Babs goes on the road this year, and just really looking forward to that. And then it'll culminate with the tournament this year, and being at the table for the basketball tournament this year. So just no place I'd rather be than the gym during the wintertime.
Excellent.
Hey,
yeah, go ahead.
If you don't mind, Bob, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I've actually got a trifecta of old Bangor Auditorium seats in my man cave that I bought off of eBay for, I think, $300 a couple years ago. Maine's a great state for basketball, and I wanted to just kind of gauge you guys as media personnel. We've been in this long enough. I won't beat this to death, but what are your thoughts on the effects that the new classification changes have had on scheduling? And I'm going to speak on this just from a Foxcroft Academy lens. Last year we had 10 away games and 8 home games. We had a stretch where we had 6 away games in a row. This year we again have 8 home games, 10 away games. We have a stretch of, in 10 days, we got to go to Caribou, to Ellsworth, to Holton, and to MDI in 10 days. And
wow,
that has something to do with the reclassification. I don't know what it was last year, but obviously my agenda is going to be trying to figure out, what's up with the scheduling stuff, because I think every team should be 9-9, and we're 10-8. 8-10, 2 seasons in a row. But this year we lost Central and Bucksport reclassified. So did Orono. So we had to make up new games elsewhere. But I wanted to see what you guys' thoughts were that way, because obviously you cover a much more broad demographic than Class B girls North and the Big East only. I'm sure there are other teams that have similar challenges to what FA has, but I I remember thinking last year, like my schedule could never get any worse. And then this year's schedule came out and said, hey, here I am. But what are you guys' thoughts on reclassification and, those types of things?
Well, I'll start. Just, I mean, I know I don't understand why you have 8 home games, 10 away games, and it actually it affects us too because we.
Oh, I brought it up, Bob. But that's a good. It's valid. I've got kids I got to go to bat for, and we're going to have a week where we're in the bus for, on the math here, roughly 25 hours in 10 days to play 8 hours of basketball. So.
Yeah, and I know it's a challenge for the athletic directors, but it should be 9 and 9 across the board. I mean, one way that, especially 2 years in a row. So I don't know if that's classification, or it obviously wasn't last year. So I don't know what that is. I mean, Steve, got any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, being from Aroostook County, I mean, as far as the long bus trips are concerned, I mean, that's just something that Presque Isle's been kind of standard as far as what they've had to deal with. But
is what it is on that side.
No, but the other thing, when it came to the reclassification, when a lot of the proposals came out, and Presque Isle was going to go, or there were certainly going to be like Gardner and Coney and Lawrence, and these other schools were going to then drop down. And Presque Isle kind of thought, well, we already have to travel to Bangor for 7 games, and then they have to go to MDI and Ellsworth. They have to stay overnight and play back-to-back games for Caribou and Presque Isle. It was like, well, no, like you're already putting a strain on our athletic budget, and there's a lot of different opinions, and certainly everybody that makes a schedule or on the committee that does a classification has an agenda, and it's whether we want to say yes that they have an agenda or not, everybody that goes into it has a bias, and that's just natural human instinct. So I don't know. Again, I don't know if there's a perfect answer. Certainly you should be 9 and 9. I mean, I think it's only, I would expect schools to be 9 and 9, have 9 home games, 9 away. But as far as the bus trips, is I guess where Foxcroft is located, it is a little, if you're going to, you got to go to the county twice.
What it is, but the 9 and 9 thing going away 2 years in a row, I mean, you're losing games at home that obviously in a conference that challenging. And I'm not trying to gripe, I really think it's becoming a problem that's all of a sudden becoming a recurring problem. And with you guys as media people, I figured you would probably have a better exposure to other classes, because I'm looking at it through a very small, very, very small lens. So I wasn't sure if you guys had seen other situations in other classes, other groups, boys, girls, what have you, that, maybe there's variables some of us aren't aware of. Certainly we all get text messages and Facebook activity and whatnot, people asking you about your schedule and why it's like that when you get it to come out. I'm sure I'm not the only coach that has that same battle. So I didn't know if you guys had a little bit of a more objective lens than what we might be hearing from administration or the MPA, or, everybody has an opinion, the world.
Bob, you got anything?
Yeah, I think classification and scheduling are kind of two separate. Now I know we've, shared, I've shared my proposal with Coach Ladd too, and other people as well last year about going back to 4 classes. So I think geographically for you, Coach, that, Class C, where under 4 class proposal would be, the travel would be a lot less for Foxcroft Academy, because you close to Holland, you're close, although Holland would be in Class D, probably in the 4 class proposal, but you'd have Dexter Central, probably geographically. I know that they're a little bit of an outlier in Class B because they have to at least travel to Bangor. Big East is really spread out geographically. You got.
Bob, the classification wasn't the question. It was the changes in allowing a girls' team to change classification versus a boys.
Oh, I got you. Okay, right. Okay, that's what. Now I know it has created some challenges with the schedules. So, surprised though that now you're playing Dexter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Home and away.
Yeah, I just assume there's other schools that for example, Orono and Bucksport are able to drop in girls Class B. I assume that similar scenarios have happened in various, gender and class mixes at other levels where that's caused a scheduling snafu for whoever the scheduling entities are. But I was just curious if you guys had other reports of, kind of a loaded home and away schedules that way, because that's becoming a recurring problem for us. And I don't know if that's geography or just coincidence. It's not really. We don't. Really,
I haven't seen.
We're gonna show up and play. It is what it is.
The only thing I would say, I know John Babb's situation too, being in the Big East as well. They don't play a Class C opponent, so there's 10 teams in the conference. They play everybody home and home. So for them, it was pretty simple, but obviously, other situations too. I know Washington Academy plays Woodland, they play Narraguegas. So, but yeah, I am surprised though it didn't even out about 8 conference home games, 8 conference road games.
The WA once, we get Holton once. There's another team we get once too that kind of caused it to offset.
Okay.
I wasn't curious. I was just curious about the whole home and away game thing. To me, like to see that get rectified at some point. Not just at our school, but statewide, because we talked about this earlier, Bob, you nailed it. Maine's a basketball state and people want to go watch their team at their gym.
Absolutely. I
couldn't agree more. I mean, that's what it's all about. Get the crowds out and everything. But anything else from anybody here? Cool. Thank you. Well, only two coaches left. Thank you, Coach Ladd and Coach Bell, for joining us. Appreciate you guys. Thank you, Steve and Bob, for doing this. It's a great preview as always. We'll see each other plenty this year. Steve, I might not see you till Bangor, but we'll see you all week. We'll see you all week that week. But anyway, good luck to everybody this year and have fun.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I'm sure I'll see Steve up in the county in a couple of weeks anyway.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
See you all. I'll see you all at some point.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
See you guys.
Yeah.